know my intuition. I got bars and eights, but never in a prison. Too far gone, never gonna sit and listen. This is optimism mixed with the best. You get it up. What you're seeing is a beast in the flesh. I'm vetted up. I don't need to try to speak for the.
Hey, folks. Hey, Cyber, we got you back, brother. Good to see you. Hey, folks, how's it going? Jeff S, aka TrueKnowledge, humbled to be the creator and co-host of the MCU'S Bleeding Edge YouTube channel and podcast. We're back at it. Another Friday night, another Bleeding Edge non-fandom movie review. Kicking some ass on Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind from 2004 with Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. I'm joined presently by my co-host and veteran content creator, Cyberneticshark. Cyberneticshark, sir. How are you tonight, sir?
Oh, I am fantastic.
Are you happy to be on the panel again, sir?
Oh, yes. Love being on the panel.
I know you do. Over there in the top, I guess what would be probably maybe your left-hand corner. Oh, I was going to say is, of course, Andreas, the pop culture guy, starting off the show with blackface, as usual.
Right corner for me. Right corner.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. It's right corner for me too, but I didn't know how it comes off to other people. So that's right. I wanted to seem interesting, so I figured I'd.
You are interesting.
I know that. I know that. Anyways, Andreas, sir. Other than your allergies, how are you doing, sir?
Very good. Excited to talk about this movie. And yeah, it was a good Friday.
It was, and watching this movie was a highlight. It was. I enjoyed it a lot. I haven't seen it. I'd have to say, and that would be my first question. I'd have to say the last time I saw this film was probably in maybe, I don't know, one time. No, I saw it a couple times. I think on rotation in HBO, like when I had cable years ago, back in like maybe 2009 or 2010, something like that, 2011. It was in rotation, right? It already come out a long time ago. I'd seen it once or twice. Then it kind of became something that I would watch that would just pop on. You know how it is when you have cable. Some of us still do. So I've seen it probably for now on. Whenever I moderate, I want to ask y'all, anybody in the panel, how many times you've watched the film that we're reviewing. I've seen this probably at least, I'd say if I had to guess, at least probably 5 or 6 times total, including today. Cyberneticshark, sir. Well, how many times do you think? What's your number? What's your body count on Eternal Sunshine?
Dozen.
Yep. All right. Andreas?
Same here. 1,000. When I first saw it, I was hooked.
Okay.
For you, I saw it on Sundance Channel. That was like my area of movies to see. The Sundance Channel.
Okay. Cool. It's always good to recollect to recall the back in the day times and whatnot and everything, and what was available back then. But I always loved this film. I loved it seeing it in 2024, in 2004 when I was young. I loved. I guess I didn't probably grasp it then, but I loved the combination of humor and romance and almost like sci-fi. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call sort of like, the procedural stuff that they do and whatnot in the movie. But so first question, basically, Cyberneticshark, sir, Andreas, I'll let you actually go second for a show instead of having to go first all the time. Cyberneticshark, sir, what do you feel like the underlying message of this film is, or what is it for you at least?
To love and to work through anything that is possible, no matter what is the outcome. That you can't change a person for what they are. You got to accept them for who they are. That's pretty much the message that I get from it.
The ending of the film, basically.
Yep.
In a way. Encapsulation wise. I like that. That's good. Andreas.
No, I think I agree with Cyber, his way of saying it, because that is very true. Like, because with the characters, like, they're not accepting who they are, like, particularly with Joel towards, like, Clementine. When I rewatched this, I know that, Joel was a very control freak towards Clementine, and, he never really accepted her as a person, and that's why she always had that like like anxiety and like dip, frustration with Joel, because like Joel was never honest to her or himself, to go into his memory. So yeah, I think everything what Cyber's saying is like very true to the film. Um, also there's other things like like precious memories, like how important memories are for you, because the memories like kind of shape you as a person, as a moving into adulthood. You just remember these kind of precious moments, um and like it defined you as a person. So I think that's also another theme about the film. So that's my thoughts on the film.
Andre is a pop culture guy, as always. You did not answer my question whatsoever, but that's okay because we love you anyway, and it was still a great contribution from the panel, sir. But thank you as always for not answering my question. I wanted your take on what you think the message of the film is to you, like what I'm saying, like what you feel like the message is, if it even has one.
Oh, it does. I answer your question more like overlapping.
I get what you're saying, because some films are just out there to entertain you. They're not trying to give you some kind. They're not trying to pay you off with some kind of, right, Cyber, some big message at the end of the film or whatever, whatnot. That's not the point of every film. So I'm sort of like wondering in general, do you feel like this maybe that this film maybe it has a message, but it's not one that's like really overt, or like is it one that's like more personal? Like do you feel like you personally get a message from the film?
Sorry, the interruption. Yeah, I have a personal connection with the film. I relate to a lot with Joel as a character, and to answer your question, if I'm properly saying it right. But yeah, no. This movie this movie is very twisty. Like it's a very like twisty movie that like kind of throws you off, and like that's one of the things that is very impressive with me with this film. Like every time you go back, there's very great details about how like you think initially this character knows this, and then they know that, but then it's not really true. It's tough to really discuss this movie like thoroughly. So
no, what you said was great. I like what you said, that you connect with Joel. I like that. That's good. That's all I needed to hear. And I'll rely on you too, and you especially, Cyberneticshark, in terms of the cinematography, because this film is shot really. I mean, even though it's 2004, it's shot in a very interesting way. There's a lot of interesting shots in this film that you don't really see in every film that you see. Also, this film is not designed to be linear as a story. It's broken up in pieces, right? There's like, you can't call them flashbacks. What would you call them, Cyber? When you have like a fragmented storyline like they have in this film, what would be the right terminology for that?
Well, because it's dream sequences, basically, is what it is. It would be more like it's more of like fantasy. It's like daydreaming, basically, is what it would be considered. So, I mean, thinking of it as that, it's a daydreaming copia of scenes is basically what it would be considered. There's really no technical term for it in the movie industry. It's just they basically use the same concept as pretty much any other concept.
Okay, so a non-linear storyline then or whatever, whatnot, basically just has its own, one term kind of deal or whatever, whatnot, and that's it. It's pretty much consistent across the span of film.
Correct.
So like when you have Memento, it's the same deal, right? Even though it's like totally different kind of structure and theme.
Well, Memento is more of flashbacks because he's flashing back to previous encounters, whereas this is actual real dreaming.
Yeah, that's not really a fair movie to bring up at all, because Memento is so individualistic. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a rare film. You don't really see anybody else that's ever really like gone in that direction other than that movie.
But yeah, I mean, the movie itself the directing style that Michael Gondry uses and his sequencing of the scenes is very different for that time in 2004. That's why it made such a big impact on the film industry when it came out, because it was very different. But this type of style that he used in this is very common nowadays.
Well, and and I have one more question before we get into the actual film itself, and that would be, and I'll go to you, Andre, is this the kind of movie that would inspire you off, like, hypothetically, to want to read a book based off a movie? Like, from watching this, would you find it interesting maybe to read the novel?
I was just checking. I was like, wait, this movie was based on a novel? I mean, it's.
I believe it is, yes.
No. It's title. It's like the title is from like a quotation they took, but overall, the story is a very original story by the writers from this movie, like Charlie Kaufman and Gondry, and then another individual.
Okay, you're right. So there is no book. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me change my question. If there was a book, hypothetically, right, would it be one that you would want to read based off the film?
Yes. I mean, it's a very unique concept of like someone is trying to erase his memories for individuals. So I will definitely read it.
No, I agree with you. I'm glad we're reviewing it. I really am. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, The Cable Guy's a great film, folks. That's what we were going to do tonight. But when I thought about it, Eternal Sunshine of a Spot, and I think it was Andreas that actually brought it up. That why I thought about it, which I appreciate that you bringing it up, Andreas, that we're even doing it. But Cyberneticshark, what do you think, sir? I mean, again, I know you're not a huge reader, probably mostly just because of the fact that you don't have the time. But if you had the time, right, and you were on vacation or something like that or whatever, and you could sit down and read a book, hypothetically, if this was based off a novel, would this be something you think that would be interesting to read?
Me personally, no. I would find this boring as fuck, because the only reason this movie is good is because of the acting. And the acting is what really got me. So no, I wouldn't read a book that's about this. I find it too slow and too depressing.
You're right.
For a book for me to read, it has to be about action, giant monsters, has to be fantasy based. That's the kind of books I like to read.
I got you. Awesome. No, and I get where you're coming from with that. You know what you honestly, Cyber, you know what you love? You probably would love the Halo series of novels, right? You know how we talked before when we reviewed Halo briefly about how in the novels there's a canon from the games that's totally different than the show, right? That the show went in a totally different direction than canon. The novels are fucking outstanding. If you like space battles and shit like that and whatnot, and like hardcore sci-fi and like action type shit and whatnot in your books, that like Halo delivers that shit, man. Andres, honestly, man, I'm thinking about going back and like finishing that up with you on Bleeding Edge Report next year. They're doing a season 2. I want to review it. But I personally would read this. I probably would read this if there was a book of it and whatnot and everything. I like romance. I like a good romantic relationship driven story, as long as it's done well and whatnot and everything, and there's other stuff added in and it's done in an adult form. And I feel like a book like this would be of that kind. But basically, starting off, I guess what would be the first segment of the film, before I go to you guys with my first question, we get introduced to Joel Banish. That's Jim Carrey's character in the film. As Cyber already basically called it out, our focus on this review is going to be on Jim Carrey as Joel and on Kate Winslet as I apologize, called Clementine. I'm sorry. So basically, we see Joel wake up. The movie is very fluid. It moves very quickly from jump. There's not a lot of disposition. Everything's very active until it kind of starts to go into its procedural state, and we'll get into that. But Joel wakes up. We don't really know why. If you put yourself back into the shoes of not knowing what you're getting into when you first watch this, you don't know why Joel decides to ditch work and doesn't feel all that good. He's kind of like, he just seems kind of loudy, like kind of like sluggish. He never says that he really does feel sick. He just decides to take work off. He doesn't really know why, right? It's a great start. He just randomly decides to go to Montauk, which is in Jersey, right? So I'm assuming he lives in New York or New Jersey or somewhere like that, PA or something. Takes a train, which is cool. I love going on the train. Just he ditches work, calls in. We see him draw, write in his journal, and he bumps into Kate Winslet's blue-haired Clementine. The blue hair is dope on her, by the way. I dig blue and purple hair and shit and whatnot on chicks and certain chicks, and that she looks pretty hot, I think. And you hear him utter at one point, "Why do I fall in love with each woman that pays me any attention?" Which I think is very important for his character in terms of like who he is across the span of the film, which really only I think occurs over the 2 days. I think the entire span of the film is contained within 2 full days, right? Essentially.
4 days, I think. 3 or 4 days.
Okay. All right. So it's 3 or 4 days, but it's a very contained time period and whatnot, everything where everything that occurs in this 2-hour plus film, right? Isn't it Cyber 2 hours plus? No, a little bit less.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an hour. It's like an hour.
It's like an hour and like 50 minutes, something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah. It's very contained. Very well paced. Never boring. I don't think really, which of course I'll ask the guys here in a minute, how they feel about that. But we see our initial, our initial couple, our main characters chit chat on the train. And again, I'm reading off my outline as if nobody's ever seen this before. So, right from jump, Clementine is a pain in the ass. You can tell that she's a pain in the ass. She's like putting liquor in her fucking coffee and shit and whatnot, everything, right? Like she's all over the place with Joel, who's obviously like an insecure, like very nice guy, like overly nice, almost. Over apologetic kind of. But like just shy. I think a little bit with women. That's all. Seems like a decent guy. But like I said, Clementine's a pain in the ass from jump. She's erratic. But it's obvious that they have chemistry from jump, which I think again Cyber points out right from jump, a really good point in the fact that I think Jim Carrey. This is Jim Carrey's probably his best serious film. His dynamic with Kate Winslet in the film is outstanding. They must have had great chemistry on in the shoots and whatnot and everything when they actually worked together. They must have had great chemistry in this film. Because I can't imagine anybody else being cast in these roles but them, to be honest with you. I thought they were just really great together in their scenes together, which there are a lot of scenes in the film where they are together. So right there, you sort of get a sense of both their natures, I guess, from jump. And Joel offers her a ride. He's chivalrous, courteous, which she takes. She's obviously very needy and gives off like a very I'll leave it to y'all guys to describe her vibe. But I really like Kate Winslet in this. Joel goes in for the drink when he's invited in, right? And I'll give you guys your first question here, Cyberneticshark, sir. How would you describe Joel at this point? Pre-fucking Clem for the first time, right? Like just going and having the drink, right? Like them on the train. We don't imagine you don't know the whole span of the film, right? What's your take? What would be your take on where we're at with Joel at that point? What would you think of him, sort of?
That he's an introvert. I mean, pure and simple. He's an introvert, and he doesn't do well in social situations, and he's just basically pretty much a chicken shit. Pure and simple. That's it.
Okay, Andre, sir, do you want to pick up off that?
No, it's pretty obvious he's an introvert. Jim Carrey's character Joel. Like where versus Clementine, she's more extrovert, which is kind of obvious. So, and I like how the film kind of shows you that, like, with Joel, he always writes like something in the journal, which is kind of like very introvert. And then you look at Clementine, her extrovert is like very like loud with her color of like the color of the dye hair, with the orange and the blues we see in the film. So like it's right there in the moment when we see those two characters.
Okay. No problem, sir. I
Yeah.
appreciate your... Go ahead.
Yeah, and you brought up something like, remember that she was like, because this is like a non-linear thing. Like she's coming off from that really horrible, like she. Well, I don't know. You want me to like? Yeah, maybe not. We'll discuss that because
No, go ahead.
like when why she's drinking that alcohol is because in the cup it's like she's like also remembering something but she doesn't know it yet, and plus she broke up with that other character we'll get into, Patrick, in the film. So
of course, I think that's important for you to mention. I think I'm glad you mentioned that because honestly, I didn't think about that when I first saw it. Right?
Yeah.
Again, I haven't seen this in a long time, so I did not think about the fact that she's, where we're going to talk about later on in the review, kind of where she's at and whatnot and everything. Like at this point in the story, why she'd be drinking, right? So, like, I'm glad you mentioned that actually, Andreas.
Yeah.
Thank you for going ahead for once. But no, so basically from there, right? When Joel goes into her apartment to have a drink, she totally is throwing herself at him. And he kind of doesn't go for it, takes her number. She, again, she's fun. She's like, she's very alive compared to him. And he's very attracted to her. And he goes home, and she'd already asked him to you make sure that he called her, which is always nice. And that she wanted to go on a night date with him, like a picnic, to some, I don't know, fucking frozen spot, river, whatnot, with ice and shit. So basically, he dips out and pussies out, Joel does, and doesn't hit that shit the first time. Though I'm sure he went back for that second one. Because they go on their date after he calls. It's very sweet. He calls her and already misses her and everything and whatnot. They go on their ice date. There's a great shot there. There's some really great shots throughout the film. There's a great shot there that I think is definitely a sort of what would be the word, Cyber? The shot where they're laying together on the fractured ice, I think is sort of a later on gesture, right? Like a sort of hidden signal or whatever to reflect sort of an aspect of the film. Does that make sense? Your scene right there.
I don't think it means anything. I think it just shows that they were having a good date.
Okay.
I don't see any underlying message to that scene there behind me. I just think it's just a good angle. That's all.
Would you at least appreciate the fact that say that there's some really good shots like that throughout the film, more especially when they're together?
They're okay. Yeah.
I thought that one was really great. All right, so basically, they have their first date. They're up all night. He takes her to her apartment. She asks to go stay at his apartment and sleep. Goes to get her toothbrush, and some random fucking dude walks up and is like, "Why are you here?" Right? Like, what's going on or whatnot? And again, you don't know who the fuck is going on at that point. You do if you've seen the film, but some random dude's asking them questions like, "Why are you here? What are you doing here? You're supposed not to be here," or some shit. Who is, of course, we'll find out later, Patrick. Who was a little bitch and not exactly my favorite character in the film, we'll just say. So I'll stop there. Cyberneticshark, sir, after going to the date, right? going into the part where, they have the date together, whatnot, and everything, right? And he goes and has the drink with her in her apartment and whatnot, and everything. We have the chit chatting on the train, all that, sir. What are your thoughts on all that and whatnot? What do you have to say about all that and everything? And then, basically, we're up to the point where Patrick inserts himself into the story.
So basically kind of like the intro of the film where we're introduced to Joel and to Clementine is very interesting and very fun. Right off the bat, just like you said, Clementine is a pain in the ass, and she's like, saying one thing and then changing her mind a second later and all that kind of stuff, and just she's very erratic, most definitely. And you kind of get the idea, like, what is the fuck wrong with this chick? And you're like, Joel, why are you interested in this batshit crazy lady? And of course, we're thinking, well, because she's damn sexy, she's hot. But at the same time, you're just kind of like, wow, what is up with this chick? Like, what has happened in her life that, she's this crazy, actually. And you kind of get the idea. You can definitely tell how, like, the chemistry definitely is there to begin with. Like, you can see it in certain aspects of how they look at each other, how they present certain words to each other and stuff like that. So you get kind of that first impression of kind of they have a history already together just in those opening sequences. And I mean, you get all that kind of funness, seeing them together, them being happy, having these interesting little conversations along the way. And her kind of always kind of like at some points apologizing for her actions, and just kind of seeing how like there's definitely that chemistry. And then basically after they have that, that great kind of montage of them dating a little bit, over that little course there, you got Patrick inserted, which is played by Elijah Wood. And when you see him first pop up, you're kind of like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, who is this guy? Like, why is he like interjecting himself? Hence why Jim Carrey's character, is basically, I don't understand what you mean. Like, why am I here? I'm waiting for somebody. Like, I don't get what you're talking about, because we have no idea who Patrick is yet. And that hasn't been explained. So that kind of, I'm sure a lot of people that probably confused people when they first watched it. But I thought that Elijah Wood did a good job of, of that sequence there and giving us kind of that creepy vibe almost of his character. But that beginning of the section is really fun. It draws you in, gets you interested in the story, and really pulls you in before the beginning credits open.
And, in the Wikipedia, they actually mentioned Memento from Christopher Nolan in 2000 affecting the possibilities of this even being made, right? Like, there's a correlation right there. So I didn't mean to bring that up like that, but it actually comes up in the Wikipedia that had to do with selling to the studio or whatever, whatnot, everything, even making the film. Andrea, sir, your thoughts on that first section?
Yeah. I want to address the Memento thing. I can totally understand why that could be concerning, but the fact that they're using, dreams and memories to tell this non-linear thing is very unique. So it was easy enough to separate that from Memento. Plus, this is a romantic drama over, Memento is a more psychological thriller, basically. So, but yeah, this opening section is great. As Saber say, this just has gets you into the characters that we're going to follow pretty much the majority of the film, Clementine and Joel. Right away, just has this what do you call it, melancholy feel to it, from it reminds me a lot like Her, like this kind of very dreadness, and very the feel of loneliness is kind of right there already in the scene with Jim Carrey's character. And the cinematography here is so beautiful, because you could tell we're in winter, that's one of the cool things about this movie is when we get to the crazy dream sequence, or the memories, we're jumping back and forth with the seasonal stuff like the fall and the winter and maybe the summertime, So I really appreciate that. Just in general, like I just love how this film is paced, and plus how they use the non-linear thing so well. Like that's the thing that I love about this film. It's one of my favorite non-linear like movies. After like it beats Memento and Pulp Fiction for me. How they use it in such a creative way. Like I mean, Charlie Kaufman, great writer. I don't know, you guys have seen being John Malkovich. What else? Adaptation. Like he's one of the best writers in Hollywood, and I think this was his best one because not only because how creative it was, but it's also how personal the story is, and right away it's like personal and fun, like simultaneously, which is great in the opening. But yeah, it is great, and then yeah, the Elijah Wood thing. It was not only that. I was like, who is that actor? Like that was my thing with the whole movie. I was like, I didn't recognize half the actors until I was like, oh, that's Mary J from Spider-Man films, and oh, that's Falcone from Batman Begins. Oh, look
I think this is Elijah coming off of Lord of the Rings.
yeah, this is like a year after the Return of the King. Yeah, and and Kristen Dunst. This was the same year with Spider-Man 2. I mean,
This is before she did that comedy in Minnesota or whatever with the pageant and all that shit and whatnot, where she broke out off that, right? No, that already came out.
yeah.
Drop Dead Gorgeous came out in 1999.
Oh, okay, no shit. That's a fucking classic, dude.
Oh, you're mixing up with Bring It On. That's like the cheerleader movie that she did in 2000.
I never watched that one.
It's okay. It's a fun like.
Drop Dead Gorgeous is goddamn awesome.
I heard. But yes. So overall, I mean, I was in the same boat with Joel. I was like, who is this person? And it was kind of weird. Like my first time, and then rewatching again, it was like, oh, I see what's going on. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Okay. What do you think about the score and the soundtrack, Andreas?
Oh my god, it's one of the best scores for me. I bought 3 of the section of it. The song that everybody got to learn sometime is one of my favorite songs. This is performed by Beck. I think that's the artist. It's another. This song was sung by another band. I forgot the band from the 80s, but like this is another variation of the song everybody got to learn sometime, and it fit so well with the film of the themes and all that, and about accepting everyone and learning your mistakes from your relationship and all of that. Like I really enjoyed that. But the score, the musical score by what is it?
Ryan.
Yeah, John. Yeah, great composer. It really fits the kind of quirkiness of the film, but it also elevates the emotional beat that like it gets to you so well. So the score is really iconic, and it just fits so well, especially when we get to.
I think it's actually pronounced Brian. I apologize.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, Brian or something like that. Yeah,
It's not Brian.
Yeah. And this is where I recognize his score. He's a great composer because he did some of Paul Thomas Anderson films. Heartache, Punk Drunk Love, another great film that has really good score. Yeah, I really love the score. I really enjoy it.
Well, it says featuring songs from artists The Polyphonic Spree,
Mm-hmm.
The Willows, and Don Nelson.
Yeah.
And the Corgis. I never heard of any of these bands, to be honest with you. The only band I heard in the movie that's named that I know of is the Clash. I never heard any of them bands before.
Okay.
But I like the soundtrack. Cyber, what did you think? Did you like the score?
No, I'm not a big fan of the score of this movie. It's not my jam. It's pretty basic to me.
It is. It's not mine either. I didn't really. I didn't connect with really anything. The only song out of the whole movie I think that I really vibed with was the song they played in the end credits. I like that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's the song that you hear in the beginning as well.
Yeah, that was okay. I liked the one of the end credits. Other than that, I really I felt like, but I did feel like at the very least, Cyber, I felt like the score did fit with the energy and the flow of the movie, at least, right? If that makes sense, would you agree?
What was the question?
I
Can't
did
quite
feel
hear you, man.
I did feel like the music at least did flow with the storyline and the twists and turns of the film, and whatnot, and everything, and the scenery, right? I thought at least the music paired well with the film. It was at least equatable from that level. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it serviced the film.
It worked, yeah.
That's all, right? Like, it did its job, So either way. So basically, off of the weirdo fucking Patrick deal at the car, we go, moving on, right, into, crying, broken Joel in his car, right? Like falling apart and shit and whatnot. He's being tailed by Dr. Meerschawitz's people, Patrick and Ruffalo Stan. Of course, if you're new to the movie, you don't know why. But Seth Rogen actually auditioned for the role of Patrick before Elijah Wood grabbed it. How about that? Back in the day. Of course, Patrick enters into a relationship with Clementine by imitating Joel, which is fucking creepy as fuck for me throughout the entire movie. Like, I hate the character. Sorry, Elijah. You were great in Lord of the Rings, baby. Not in this one. The film is structured in a non-linear fashion, as I mentioned. And basically, the sort of memory stealing squad, or whatever you want to call them, enters Joel's apartment to do what we, find out is his procedure. It's almost like some Inception shit. As we sort of get some jumbling of scenery, which we'll get as Andre has already mentioned, there's a lot of twists and turns with sort of like the way the movie's shot at times. A lot of weird narration at times and whatnot, everything that dips in and out. But either way, we catch Joel basically explaining to his friend David Cross, who's great in the film in his small role. And his girlfriend is also Jane Addams is great. I've seen her in a couple of different things before and whatnot and everything, and she's actually really cute. I like her. She services her role very well as well. And Joel's explaining to him, essentially that they just broke up, him and Clem, and that he went to like the Barnes and Nobles or whatever bookstore where she works, and she literally acted like she didn't even know who he was. It was with the new dude, creepy old Patrick fucking creep. And so he's all pissed off and broken by that shit. I mean, who wouldn't be? Like for reals, I'd be fucking like, feel like an ass. I feel pretty bad too. And it's at that point that, the friend basically gives him the card, the note, explaining the services that Lacuna provide, right? From Clementine. Now, I didn't really understand why he had that. Like, I guess they sent the card to the wrong address or something. Did they send them like to the actual other person? Was that supposed to go to Joel?
No. It wasn't supposed to. See, it was supposed to send to everyone that is associated to Clementine. And to form, to let know that you cannot mention the relationship at all. So it was a mistake to tell that to Joel, and so that's why.
There you go. So basically, Rob goes ahead and gives him the note, right? Which pisses off, Carrey, his girlfriend, or whatever, whatnot, and everything. They have an argument. They have like a pretty combative relationship in the film, and they're short like scenes together. And she's pissed off that he's even sharing this information with Joel, right? Thinking that it'll just inflame him even more, right? Which of course it does, because he then finds out, of course, that, literally which is pretty far out there. Clementine has actually had him like removed from her memories in her head and whatnot. Everything, doesn't even really know who he really is. So of course he does. Joel does what Joel does. It shows up at Lacuna. We see Kirsten Dunst's character Mary, Swevo, the receptionist, who has a crush on the doctor from Jump. Joel meets with the doctor, who of course is played by Tom Wilkinson, great character actor. And he comes back and decides to do the same shit that Clementine did after kind of getting pissed off and being like, this isn't fair. What? I can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. And the doctor explained to him, hey, this is what we do. This is legal, right? Like she's decided to remove, you from her memories. This is how it is, right? So, he decides to go ahead and do the same process. The movie moves right along, right? Joel sits, in the waiting room with parents who lost a child, which was pretty fucking heartbreaking, right? Just to kind of give you, of course, it makes sense that you'd have that kind of thing going on. But he's sitting there with like literally a couple where they lost a child, I believe. You see them with all the mementos and whatnot, which is a part of the procedural process. As the doctor explains over the course of the next few scenes, we introduced to Stan officially, Mark Ruffalo's character. Ruffalo looks really young in this. This would, of course, be what? 7 years before he'll play Hulk?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no. Go ahead, Andres.
Yeah. He was like well known before the Hulk, but like when he was in films like You Can Count on Me, another Oscar film that was really good. This is the same area he was in 13 going on 30, the Jennifer Garner film where she like magically, her character like magically grow up to be an adult.
Oh, he did that Meg Ryan film where Meg Ryan thought that she could resurrect her career if she just like got nude and like did some fuck scenes.
Maybe if I remember.
You remember that movie? I can't remember it.
Yeah, I can't remember it. I know what you're talking about, but yeah. Mark Ruffalo, great actor. He's great in this film. I like when I first saw it.
There you go. Gotta love you some Meg Ryan, baby.
Yeah. So I was shocked that he was in this movie. It's weird to see the Hulk dating Mary J.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. So basically, Joel has the whole process, the whole procedure explained to him. And they do the brain mapping in preparation for tonight's procedure. That's how quick everything, unfolds. Joel starts to experience what the procedure sort of does by going third person in the room and whatnot and everything, and like seeing himself in the chair and shit and whatnot. And we sort of start getting the psychedelic kind of like flashback type vibe type shit and whatnot. That's going to start to go down in the film right there for the first time. Where he's sort of existentially looking at his own self and seeing memories, like processing in front of himself and whatnot and everything, right?
Yes.
So at that point, now we're fully at the procedure, right? That evening. As the doctor explains, he just has to basically like lay down and go to bed. They show up, right? And, they go ahead and they handle their business. He wakes up and, the worst he'll feel in the morning is like a bad hangover. So, we find out from Jump that Patrick's kind of lazy, likes to dick around. Stan seems to be kind of more professional, wants to work, wants to actually do his job. Joel starts experiencing memories of Clem, and, which is the sort of the start of this, larger theme throughout the second segment and throughout the rest of the film as he goes through the procedure. So, right there, I'll stop and, go ahead and go to you, Cyberneticshark, sir. At that point, before we go into, basically, Clem wrecks Joel's car, right? And he experiences the last memory he has, them breaking up. Up until that point, sir, if you want to opine, what are your thoughts on what goes on in the sort of furbish, scenes we get kind of when, he's introduced to, the doctor and the staff at the company, whatnot, and everything, and discovers what actually happened.
So, where are we going up to again? Sorry.
This will be when Joel gets the note from his friend there, David Cross's character, and knows what the hell's going on now, right?
Okay.
Everything and whatnot. He's all heartbroken. We get the real intro of the film when he's in the car, right? And then going up until his first reel, going back to his memories.
Okay.
His last memory of Clem, where they actually have their argument that caused them to then break up, and her being so impulsive, she immediately does the memory shit, like that same day, like almost the next day, like purges him.
So this section, I mean, we get introduced a little bit more to a few of the other characters that are a part of this film. You get kind of introduced to Mark Ruffalo's character. You get introduced to Tom. Why do I forget his last name? Juntao from Rush Hour 1. We get introduced to Kirsten Dunst's character. We don't really get introduced to Patrick's character until they actually go to the actual zapping of the memories for Jim Carrey's character Joel. But that whole section of the film is kind of interesting because he finds out he's not supposed to have seen that letter. He finds out that Clem did this, and that he basically shows him that I got to do it because I can't stand not knowing that she did this, erase me from her memory, and he doesn't want to remember it. And we get that kind of that heartfelt kind of like sequence where he's like, you can see he's been crying, he's got he's like erratic, so like that. And so we get to really see kind of more of Jim Carrey's more dramatic side at the beginning of this film. We get to see a lot more of that, which once again, like you said earlier, how you think this is one of his best dramatic films. I would agree to a point that this is one of his best dramatic films. Most definitely. He was so fantastic in this. And this beginning sequence really showed how great of an actor he really is. Just with that simple element there of him, getting to that point where, he decides to do the memory wipe too. But you kind of find it interesting who Mark Ruffalo's character and Juntao's character is, and these characters, and you're kind of like interested, like, ooh, I want to know more. I want to know more about these people. Like, why did they do this? Why did they, And I think they do a good job of kind of playing that out here, giving you kind of just a tad bit of them each, just to get you kind of interested in who they are. And leading up to Jim Carrey deciding to do this, it's very kind of like very dramatic, very a little slower at this pace of the film. You don't really get a lot of the like kind of good, interesting things going on. You just kind of got a slow pace going here. And, basically after he decides to do it and, they say, okay, run all the tests on him and stuff like that. And then we actually end up going to him having the procedure done to, his first memory to start being wiped. I think it's a pretty, like, it's a good point of where it gets from that very beginning portion of the film to the point it gets to. It's nothing super special, but at the same time, it is very interesting and very entertaining to a point. And I feel it makes the film flow to get to that point as well.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. So overall, I think it's a decent kind of like beginning intro to the main story itself, kind of getting you into that position to get you ready for, here comes the meat of the story.
What do you think, Cyberneticshark, sir, and then on to you as well, Andre, as pop culture guy, about the fact that now a premise of the film that we get flushed out between Clementine and Joel is her promiscuity. Yet it was Joel, right, that caused her, not anybody else, to go and get her memory wipe crap done, right? Think about that, Cyber. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? They never mentioned her as being a repeat customer or somebody who did this all the time. Like, remember the joke they make where the woman calls in and wants to do her third procedure in like a week or whatever?
Yep. I mean, yes, Clementine is very impulsive, but I think having her memory wiped of the fact that she did this, I think kind of at the same time, because she's not in that same situation she was at before having her memory wiped, she's not going to remember that she wiped it. So even though Clem is very impulsive, she doesn't have that thought process of what happened between her over the last 2 years with Joel. So she doesn't have the impulse to take care of it or get rid of it. So I can see why she's not a repeat offender.
Is that what it is? They lived together for 2 years?
Yeah.
The relationship was over 2 years.
That's
Yes.
a long relationship.
And I think also what it comes down to is that the reason why she decided to get rid of all of Joel too is because she deep down she loved him. She really cared for him, and that's the reason why she wanted to get rid of it, because she didn't want to remember actually having that feeling of love, and that's why she's so promiscuous. You know, before her relationship with Joel,
Yeah, because they're both so insecure. Yeah. No, that's the thing, Cyber. No, I don't mean to cut you off, but we don't get context on their backstories. We don't know their histories. We know Joel wakes up, right? And then he meets her on the train and at Montauk, right? That's all we know. We don't know their backgrounds, right, Andres?
Well, yes, initially, until you see the whole movie. Like, the whole movie does give you a lot of their background, actually. If you
kind of, not really Clementine's.
Yeah, but they do a good job of informing me who Clementine is by little moments and who she is, and like outside of the procedure, you know, it's just the way Kate Winslet just performed the character, just like gives me information on like who she is as a person. So there's a lot there in terms of, you know, storytelling and visually as well. But it's okay. I can jump in.
Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
So I agree with Saber. Like you know, yes, she did it to also like, you know, but it's also the same thing with Joel as well. Like, you know, he also is doing this to, you know, is raising her marriage because she loves her. And like, there's a moment when we go back to that ice, like, was it like the poster that is behind Cyber. We get back to that scene in Joel's mind, and then he begs them to stop the procedure because he just realized how important he, you know, is. He's still in love with Clementine as well. So like, they're both doing this as they're both doing this because they still like in love with each other, but they're not gonna admit to that. So they're doing this radical decision that's, I mean, you know, which is crazy, and I think that's really horrible. This sequence I really enjoy. I mean, it gets you into the like the plot of the film. It's like from the beginning, it's like you thought it was gonna be like a like I brought up how this movie is like a romantic drama. Like the beginning felt like a rom-com initially until you jump into the dramatic opening of Joel crying to the tiles, and it's like, oh, what the heck is going on? And so that was really cool. And so you're curious about what's happening. Like, is him and Clementine okay? You know, why not? And so for this beginning, it's really interesting to see how this relationship kind of went south without knowing the fact that you're seeing this movie backwards. You know, seeing backwards because the procedure is happening right now, right? Yeah, I agree with Saber. It was cool to see the was it the memory company called the Luna company that's with Tom Wilkinson and Mark Ruffalo and Kristen Dunst. Like, each of them were very interesting characters, and wow, every time we watch this movie, it just boggles my mind how crazy bad, like, pardon my French, bad shit crazy their lives are like even messed up, which we'll get into because it's twisty with those guys, which is crazy. And Elijah Wood Patrick is such a creep. Like, oh my god,
I know. I'm telling you right now, it like I real life would fucking like totally love to beat his ass.
Yeah, and and let's bring up the actors here. Like Elijah Wood is such a great actor. He definitely pulls Patrick as this like
as a slime ball, he's good.
Yeah, like a slime ball, egotistic person, and it's funny while Joel is getting the procedure done with him. He's like realizing that Patrick is there. He's hearing them talking while he's dreaming with his memories, and like he's trying to like stop Patrick to like seduce him.
Andreas, you're going past my outline, sir.
Sorry about that, but yes,
not the year 2077, sir.
What? I'm in 2088.
You can't, just because you're a time slipping, fucking time pop, time warp,
oh my
time
god,
slider or whatever, whatnot and shit, doesn't mean you can fucking time jump my outline when I moderate the show.
Well, the Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind time jumps as well.
This is a Bleeding Edge report, baby.
Well, I'm just thinking of what the Eternal Sunshine does, time jumping their memories and timeline as well.
I kept fucking up and putting Eternals as I started drinking during the movie and whatnot and everything, and I started to write on every like page of my outline, I would write Eternal and then abbreviate the rest of the movie. I kept started putting the Eternals over and over and over again, and then crossing out the S, and then realizing I needed an S anyway. I love it, Cyber. True knowledge, baby. True knowledge. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No words. No words.
I was about to say.
Yeah. Just last thing. Just to remind everyone when we get to the ending, like he was picking up all his mementos, and that was something I missed that comes back, that he actually kept one of the mementos in the film.
Yes.
So I never caught that, and that was actually something I realized yesterday when I was watching this movie. So I'm excited to talk about that. Yeah.
I'm glad to know that, sir. I'll skip my whole outline and go right to that spot in the movie just for you right now. Okay?
No. Let's go on. Let's go to the next thing.
We can go keep going? Okay.
Yeah, keep going. Come on.
All right. Good. All right. Sorry. Just want to make sure.
I just want to mention here, did Andreas decide in the year 2088 that he was going for blackface again tonight? Because we have a policy about blackface on here that if you do it, you have to do it for the rest of your time ever.
And you got to do it authentically, real blackface. Like, I'm talking, you got to, like, paint your face with black fucking whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying?
God.
Marker, paint, like,
So,
some shit. It's got to be real blackface.
so you guys want me to do the Gene Weigel Silver Streak blackface / Dan Aykroyd Trading Places blackface way?
I'm not sure if anybody's ever even noticed it before, but I've dropped the N-word before the Bleeding Edge twice. And nobody from YouTube has ever cited me about it or anything like that and whatnot, but I've done it twice.
Whoa. Maybe that was before I came.
No, one time you were there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just slid it right in there, bruh. I'm a New Yorker.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I talk just like the you know what I'm saying, like everybody else, all the other New Yorkers and whatnot. We all pretty much talk the same, you know what I'm saying? Like, the word just pops right out.
Yeah. I mean, I look. I know I get that word is offensive, but it's kind of weird. It's like it's offensive, but it's inoffensive, which is weird. It's just bizarre.
I'm just testing the boundaries, baby.
Yeah. Who cares? YouTube is weird. They have such weird rules.
Hey, at least they haven't struck me down on the me fighting White Vision's penis yet. So
See, I mean,
Cyber, I watched you laugh during that clip when I played it, just to be clear, sir, the other night. I know you found that shit funny. It was pretty good.
Yes, I did laugh at it because it was funny as fucking shit. Because as usual, you getting Andre's gourd going is absolutely hilarious. So
did you see him almost fall out? Did he almost fall out or what? There for a minute.
Yes.
I was dying for real.
Andres, you almost fell out, dude.
Yes,
You were very close.
I was just disturbed. I almost
No,
had
you were laughing your fucking ass off, bro.
I was disturbed and having a heart attack at the same time. So
Yeah,
I'm just gonna let my audience know that.
Anyways, so whatever. So basically, I want to point out right now that now that I look back, now that we've all talked about this and whatnot, we've got into the review. I don't think the word comedy even should be attached to this film. There really isn't all that much comedy. There really isn't that much humor. It's actually a very serious movie. And you guys can opine on that in just a minute. But I don't know why. I guess because it's Jim Carrey, you just make that assumption, right? Or whatever, whatnot. But looking back now, I actually put comedy as a hashtag on the shit. This is not. There's no comedic anything really in this movie. It's actually a very serious, legit film. But so basically, again, we're back at Jolie's apartment or whatever, whatnot, right? Where they're doing the procedure. And we get the memory of the argument that ends the relationship, right? Where drunk ass fucking Clementine wrecks Joel's car, right? Because she's drunk or whatever. And Joel has a really good way of saying like the worst shit to her, even though she's kind of an asshole at times, right? Like the stuff he says to her when they get heated is always like the worst, right? Like to where, you almost can't blame her for breaking up with him or whatever, whatnot, or like, getting mind wiped or whatever, because he says some pretty biting shit to her. But basically, we right there, as Andre has already mentioned, right from like almost the first memory, we hear Joel picking up, right, creepy ass fucking Patrick on the phone talking to Clementine, admitting that he stole her panties and shit and whatnot, which I don't really get all that shit. I've never stolen panties before in my life. I don't know what that does. Him and Patrick and Stan are kind of partying at that point. And it's clear at that point that Patrick is literally imitating and literally using Joel's journal and shit and whatnot to woo Clementine, which is like really kind of disturbing if you think about it. So a lot of the aspects of the procedure, I think we'll talk about over the course of the rest of the review, are kind of like really unethical. But either way, Patrick is a total douchebag. We get a new memory sequence. We get a lot of them in this part of the film, where Joel can, again, we hear, him telling Stan about banging Clem and, stealing underwear and whatnot and everything. And then we go right into, Joel trying to draw Clem's attention by now already to the fact that, like, he's sort of existential at this point. Like, he's already starting to grasp that he doesn't like this. He doesn't want these memories to go, right? And this starts the chase, basically, of the part of the film where things start to kind of go topsy-turvy, because at this point, Joel's cognizant. And, like, for whatever reason in this film, in this story, he's, like, not their average patient, right? Like, his love for Clementine is that strong to where he fights back, right, from jump. He doesn't just, go to sleep or whatever, whatnot, let them, do their thing. He fights. And so right from jump, he's almost trying to like get her attention, not vocally, but, just by his own actions to get, to make her understand that things aren't normal. We see him reliving in memory sequences, their relationship, them talking about having kids, which is where one of the moments where Joel really says some very fucking like nasty shit to her, that like, would piss off any woman, I would think, in that, conversation. I've been in that conversation before and whatnot and everything, and that's not a very tactful thing to say, what Joel says to her. Although she is all over the place, again, you guys can tell me what you think when, I get to you in just a second. Give me one moment. But they talk about having kids and one of the memories and whatnot. They get that deep. And Mary shows up at Joel's, at his apartment. She's seeing Stan, and they're sort of partying, getting stoned and drinking and whatnot and everything. And this is, of course, this is back when it was okay to bang chicks at work that you worked with and whatnot. You can't do that anymore in 2023. Those days are gone. More memory sequences. You know, Joel is narrating over the memories at this point at times, where we start to get some heavy narration. Patrick calls Clem all like little puppy, little bitch, like and whatnot, and everything. Again, using Joel's bullshit. You know, when she's clearly upset, I'm assuming, by the experience of you know, having the procedure herself and still having a remembrance of her love for Joel. I don't know for sure, but I believe that's what's happening to her. And basically, at that point, Patrick takes off, you know, and stands there with Mary and whatnot to go ahead and finish the procedure. You know, again, we hear, you know, Joel being able to hear the phone call sort of like dropping over on top of the scenes. And even stealing like the pet name he gave her, Tangerine, and using it on her own, which I don't know how her character didn't detect that from jump being off. But basically Stan loves the Clash. That's his whole deal. And we get the whole him and Mary dancing in their underwear scenes and whatnot. Everything. Kirsten Dunst looks hot. You know, and basically Patrick and Clem go to the same ice place, whatever, whatnot, everything on the same date that Clem went with Joel. And when Patrick starts reading legit from Joel's shit to Clem, she's like, nope, I'm done. I'm out of here. And bounces with you know, to take him like home, whatever, whatnot. Everything, wants to leave. Like she knows something's wrong, that something's off. We get more memory sequences, very well shot, where we see them under the blankets, having like, you know, like one of their more deep, more serious moments in Joel's memories of her. Again, this image of her is just a memory image of Clem. At this point, Joel doesn't want to lose these memories. He's literally vocally telling the people to stop. And at this point, he vocalizes to her what's going on for the first time. And I know this pop culture guy, I go to you now at that point. This is the part where he finally starts to vocalize to her what's going on. The memory version of Clem. And starts trying to work with her, right? To team up, to save her memories. Right? Yeah. Basically just trying to fight to keep her in his head. Because he knows he loves her. Right? And like reliving these memories is making him realize how special of a person she was to him, I guess you could say. And that like some of the things that like maybe he got upset about when not he overdid it, or you know, like you know, they were just things that could have been gone a different, they didn't have to go the way they did.
Yeah.
So, you know, regardless of her flaws, he loves her. And he knows that now. Sort of going back off Cyber in the beginning, right? That, you know, throughout seeing these memories, he's grasping, I've got flaws, she's got flaws, right?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying, Andres. What are your thoughts on that part of the film, sir?
Oh, no, these are really good. I mean, like, this is where, you know, we get very into the psychedelic, like, trippiness of it. You know, like, seeing, like, we have discussed, like, the way you see the memories getting erased by seeing the background getting, like, disappear. And, you know, you see some of the cars dropping down, and, or, like some of the walls kind of, like, just not there in that one scene very quickly. Like, it's very impressive how they pull it off. And yeah, well, you know, at the same time, you know, I want to get to the Clementine thing with Patrick, you know, because you brought up, like, she's doing the same, I think she's doing the same thing she did with Joel. I think, like, she's having this kind of, like, midlife crisis, maybe, like she's having this, like, erratic, like what do you call it, like, episode, maybe, where she's, like, questioning, like, her life, like her, like, the age and all that, like, something you can definitely see with a friend or something like that. But then what was really worse during that scene is this Patrick copying, like using Joel's stuff to like calm her down, which was very stupid. And the last time I be watching this, I noticed when she read something to her, the note from the night that they were where they first met, you know, dating, right, in that ice thing. When he like wrote it down, he yes, very funny. Oh my god. I don't know why you brought that up, sir. Now I am disturbed. Anyway. You're so funny. You have true sex knowledge. Anyway, she gets up and she like I don't know, like almost like she recognized what she say like from another past, and so that really freaked her out. So I felt like that was like a really like shocking, like her memories is probably coming back, but not in the way we're expecting it. So that was really neat. Yeah, and then seeing through, you know, Joel, like I appreciate that Joel like recognized that, you know, these memories are important, and it was really I mean, you know, really cool to see that, you know, when he starts talking with Clementine, like I think this is the part where he opened his eyes and like he could do it in like a few seconds, and it was creepy like how he did it, but it was like, oh my god, he can open his eyes in the real world, which is impressive. And so I don't want to jump too far. Like, I don't know, he had that conversation to like use his other memories to hide, because that was a very unique way to like not
That's
get
like the next evolution of his sort of running with Clem part.
okay. So let's get into the Raphael and like Dustin stuff. Like that was really intriguing. Like first off,
There's no Dustin. You mean Patrick?
well, Patrick, you want me to use their names? Patrick, Stan, and then what's her name? Mary. I think that's Kristen Dunst's character.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mary. Like, so like those three just like nonchalant is evading Joel's apartment. Like they take a liquor, his whiskey. She takes out his food. Like, you know, it's like they're smoking joint / eating a donut and cake. I don't know if that was cake or whatever. And then having sex, like, which we see later. They were sitting in a chair and they like have no clothes on. So I feel like these people are just unethical and violating their patient's area of living. So I found that really ridiculous that they're doing that, unprofessional, especially with Patrick. I mean, that was creepy. So I that was the thing I realized. I was like, oh my god, these people are awful. Like, I mean, Mary is a little more nicer, but like I mean, Stan, like he's a good guy, but like he's like nonchalant about the situation. Like, and then, you know, Patrick is Patrick. So, but yeah, so I think this sequence is awesome. I mean, the psychedelic like dream sequence are really great. Like, you see how they're erasing Joel's memories is really awesome. I have two favorites. I don't know, do you guys have favorites? Like my one favorite is when Joel talks to Clementine in her Barnes and Noble job, and like you see briefly, like the like the section of the book sections being erased. It's really cool. But yeah, I think this sequence is awesome. I'm excited to hear what Cyber say and you, Jeff.
Cyberneticshark, sir.
Where are we going again?
From the argument that broke up the relationship all the way up until Joel finally like gets to the point where he vocally starts like acknowledging and talking vocally and pleading with and working with and teaming up with Memory Clem to get her to like understand that he's got to save her in his memory, right? That he's trying to get rid of her and whatnot, everything, right? Like that, and trying to make like Memory Clem cognizant of what is actually going on. And they start working together up until that point, from the process, the start of the process where he's hearing the phone calls, right? You know, I read I broke down the entire thing from there on, from scene to scene.
All right. So This section of the film is when it starts to get really interesting because we go back and forth from dreams to reality. We get, of course, the breakup sequence that happens, which, once again, it's like a normal argument couples have all the time that, are stupid. And so I was like, I was cracking up that that's what ended it all, was with that. But yeah, definitely that sequence is very interesting because like what each of them say to each other and stuff like that was pretty spot on for like if they were a real couple. So I thought that was really well written. And as we progress, I mean, we see like them in Joel's apartment, have him laying down in the bed with that big dome thing around his head to erase the memories. Of course, we see, Patrick and Stan there getting it all set up, see them kind of interact with each other. Mary shows up at one point and basically kind of starts to cause havoc around there and distract Stan from doing the job. It goes kind of back and forth there. We go back into Joel's dreams. We see different sequences that, of the relationship throughout this section of the film. And, we get a lot of, kind of like interesting segments. I mean, we as we jump back and forth at different stages, we see Stan and Mary at different stages of like getting around to doing it, basically fucking. And like at one point they're laying down eating food next to Joel. At one point they're dancing around. She's like in her underwear and like a white top. Basically we at this point too is we have creepy ass Patrick getting a phone call from Clem and saying that she needs to see him because she's losing her mind. And we kind of see at this point too his backpack filled with Joel's diary things. And to go back to what you guys were talking about, that like how did he get them? I personally think he stole them. I don't think that he was given those. I think he stole them from the office to use it to get Clementine to like him. That's my thought process on that. So I don't think he actually was supposed to have those, and he stole them. But at the same time, this section of the film, you get a lot of great little, back and forth in the sequences, the dreams. We see them, having conversation under the blanket. We see them, out in the wilderness. Joel learns how to open his eyes while he's in this dream state. We get a lot of great kind of interactions between Clem and Joel. And in these sequences, we see why they mesh together so well and how they have good chemistry, even though they had all these quarrels, all these like different things. To mention like the sequence there where you said where they're out in public taking a walk and Clem says she wants to have kids and Joel says, I don't think you're ready for that, Clem, type of deal. I mean, once again, going back to the writing, really good writing, because that is something a couple that has been together shortly would argue about. That would be something that would happen with. So I think that writing was so cleverly written and made the movie seem very realistic, even though it's based, on fiction. And so that sequence, I think, was really interesting and well done too, as well. And, going back and forth between reality and the dream sequences, sometimes it was kind of like, oh, I wish they had done a little more on that dream sequence that was happening versus going back to the, real world. Because I feel like the whole what's going on in the real world, I think, was kind of a little distracting I think it should have been more focused on his dreams and them getting rid of him. But I understand to give the story more complex and give it more, these characters, giving them a life. I understand why they did that. But, I think that, Mark Ruffalo was really good in it. Of course, Elijah Wood, creepy as fuck, as everyone has mentioned, several times, because, like, yes, I understand that if you're horrible at dating, you need some assistance. But, like, literally stealing something from somebody that wrote down exactly what is in to use against that person, that's fucked up. And so we get that kind of that whole concept there of this Patrick character being this basically white Vision's, small little penis that's flopping
And
around.
what do you get from stealing panties? Like, what is the achievement in doing that? Like, what do you obtain with that? I don't really get it.
Yeah,
What do you smell them? Or, I mean, what do you do? I don't get it.
I'm assuming that's what he was doing with them or something like that. In reality, sometimes things would, women will give you their panties, and that's a different thing than stealing them. But very interesting. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of get this whole concept of that this Patrick character is just this like creepy character.
Little
So,
bitch.
I think Elijah Wood did a good job portraying that very well. But this whole section, I think, is probably the big core of the film, giving us all this great information, leading up to basically Joel finally, talking with Memory Clem to start to, get these things going to kind of stop the memories and from being erased so that he can remember her, because he realizes that he really does love her and that he doesn't want to lose his memories, even though he was hurt that she erased him from his memory. You get so many great emotional moments there that are really well written. And so I think this section of the film is probably one of my favorites, my favorite section of the film. Part of it, because this is just there's so much that goes on, and you get some great sequences that are just really well constructed. I love Dave Cross in this film, like the few parts that he's in. I think he's absolutely hilarious. But I think ultimately, like the relationship and the camaraderie between Clem and Joel is so amazingly well done by Kate and Jim in this film. And so these scenes seem so realistic, like they really were a couple. And I think it was really well done. And just how they played off those words that were given to them in the script. So very entertaining sequence, very enjoyable, and just really, really well done.
Well, now remember, folks, and this is on me for not having just checked this out earlier and simply looked this up. But Kate Winslet was nominated for Best Actress for this film. She did not win. Jim Carrey was nominated for a Golden Globe for his acting performance in this film. And the writer, of course, Charlie Kaufman, won an Academy Award and a BAFTA for Best Original Screenplay for this film. So this movie did very well. I mean, I'm not going to go down the whole list, but like this movie did very well in the award scene. It did very well. And hats off, to True Knowledge, that whoever that fucking scrolly guy is, for thinking and saying that like Kate Winslet deserved a fucking Oscar nomination for her performance in the film, and then looking on the screen and seeing that she was. Hey, Cyber, I think that gives me back 2 points back in the positive territory for True Knowledge from earlier when I was slipping.
When did you lose points? I don't think you've lost any points, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Oh, God. Anyways, what do you think about that, Andres? Do you think that are you surprised that Kate Winslet was nominated? Now, I don't even know what all came out that year, but are you shocked that she was nominated? Are you surprised she didn't win?
I'm like strongly wish she won for this role. I mean, this is her best performance as an actress. In my opinion, I think this was really great. I mean, because like this is such a usual role for her. Like you think that this is more like how you say like if this was like a more male role, this kind of like quirky kind of character. Like this is definitely a Jim Carrey type character for Jim to play, but it's a female role. And the fact that Kate Winslet played it and played so well, playing, this very, centric and like quirky kind of person, this pesky dream girl, you call it, this very stereotypical one, so well. It's like very impressive. And, in terms of her not winning it, I mean, it was tough. I mean, well, not tough because, in that year it was, some good, but it was Haley Swank, the $1 Million Baby, movie from Clint Eastwood was like a big Oscar winner during 2004. Morgan Freeman won his another supporting actor, I think, this year, and that year. Then I think Clint Eastwood won his best director, I think, as well. So it was a big one. So I get why that Kate didn't win for this year for The Eternal Sunshine. But I was happy with Charlie Kaufman winning his original screenplay because this is so original. I mean, it's so impressive. Like this movie juggles like the Truman Show, like as we discussed, well, like last Friday. That just like that, this movie juggles so many genres, like romantic drama, science fiction. It's a little bit like a thriller, especially how Joe is trying to hide from the racing people in the dreams. So like it's very impressive how it juggles so many of these like type of movie genres in one film, just like the Truman Show. And so I think the screenplay was well deserved to win, which I was happy about to read. But yeah, so what else? That's it. Jeff, for asking that question. I think it's was well deserved with the Oscar nominations and wins.
Well, let me go ahead and move on into the film because we're getting into, like, as Cyber already said, the real meat of the movie. And I don't want to make this into a 3-hour review. So let me dial back in. So basically, where we end up at, right, is, Joel, again, finally, trying to, make memory version of Clementine cognizant of the fact that he's got to retain her in his memories in his brain. Right. And that becomes his, like, his trek, like, his goal. And he just kind of runs at that point. And things get kind of like topsy-turvy. They really do in terms of how things are shot. And how there's a lot of heavy narration over a lot of the scenes and whatnot and everything. While at the same time, there's also dialogue within the narration. At times it gets kind of topsy-turvy. It's hard to kind of like describe it sort of like in an outline form. You have to have watched the film to understand where I'm coming from at this point, because we're dipping in and out between the team, right, from Lacuna doing the procedure. At this point, Joel is reaching him back to memories that he's off the map, right? The mapping part of the procedure. And so he's doing things like having a conversation, which I thought was really interesting, with the doctor, right? Where the doctor in his memory is telling him, I'm just a fragment of myself in your memory, right? Like you're having the procedure done right now. Like I thought that was very interesting that he has that dialogue with the doctor, right? Like that and whatnot, everything and all that. And even in his memory, this whole thing is very trance-like. The whole concept for me when I was younger, watching this film for the first time, of the fact that Clementine is a memory, sort of like think of Vision in WandaVision, right, Andreas? Where he's just basically conjured up, right? That's like Clementine in the film almost. And so basically, I mean, I love this part of the film. We get the great scene with the doctor. We see Patrick, with Clem, and she's dropping him off. And he's just like making it worse and worse and worse with him by the things he's fucking saying. The same things that Joel pissed her off with in the beginning of the film, calling her nice and shit like that. One of the stuff she can't stand. Joel is talking to Clem in his head about, remembering her. And shit gets weird because, this is when we get like baby Joel type shit. We've got baby Joel under the table and shit and whatnot with his mom. Grown Clementine, being like, grow up, baby Joel, and all this shit. Shit's pretty crazy. That's when we get the narrator that comes in. We get a straight narrator for a portion of the film where everything is narrated. Like you're getting a book read to you almost, right? While there's dialogue, which is weird, I thought, to be honest with you. But it fit for the movie. So Stan and Mary sort of wake up and realize that something's fucked up with the procedure because Joel's off map. He's fighting back, right, for Clem. And so Stan has to call the doctor. And he needs help. Mary refuses to leave. She's all stoned and shit and whatnot. But it's obvious even then that like she's got some kind of crusher thing on like the doctor. You can tell by the way she just like talks about him. And this is a recurrent theme in the film that we'll see play out. Back to baby Joel, right? Which I don't know about this shit, but again, he's trying to, you know, keep Clem with him and whatnot, everything. He's flashing through his own memories, trying to remind her. She's trying to keep him on track. You know, and the doctor shows up with Stan to try to straighten out the procedure. And basically, you know, we've got Joel off the brain map. So at that point, this is when Joel's eyes open, as Cyber mentioned, which the doctor sees as like a major problem to the point where he has to inject like a sedative into him. And upon being injected with the sedative, Joel actually tears up and you see like a tear roll down his face. He's still fighting. The doctor says, okay, we're back in line. Everything's fine. And basically Joel and Clem, have the drive-in scene, right? You know, we're back to the running again and everything. Everything's vanishing as we're going. People are vanishing. Objects are vanishing. Backgrounds are vanishing. More running through places from the past. Things we've already seen. The bookstore. Joel goes off map again fighting. And back to the Montauk, right? You know, revisiting their first time, you know, meeting each other.
No. Joel goes back to his childhood memory when he was a kid that he killed.
Oh no, this isn't the first time meeting each other at the party. This is their first. This is like their first date on Montauk. He goes back to that, right on the beach.
That's towards the end of the movie.
Yeah. So basically, Stan goes out for air. You know, and that's when we see Mary sort of having a, you know, chatting up the doctor and mentioning the title in a quote of the film, which was actually a very, very beautiful quote. And then making a move on the doctor, kissing him. Doc's wife shows up, sees Stan, looks in the picture, sees Mary and the doctor together, but they're not doing anything or whatnot and everything, but takes off and bounces, right? And there's something wrong. And that's when she gets real deep, because that's when, you know, she tells Stan, the wife, the doctor's wife, tell the girl you can have him. You did. And this is when shit really gets topsy-turvy, if you're especially really new to the film. Now we see the real flaw in these procedures, like, you know, like where this shit can really get unethical. Because, you know, Stan ends up, in irony, offering her a ride home. She won't even respond, Mary. She now realizes that she's already had an affair with the doctor, right? It's already occurred. It's been wiped by her mind. Everybody in the film almost basically has been at that point. Back to Joel, still running. You're not running now. I'm sorry, Andres. Getting to their meeting each other and deciding, you know, we're just going to enjoy our time together, right? She literally says to him, you know, what do we do? Clem. And he says, you know, let's just enjoy it. That's the day that, you know, Joel met Clem at the party. This is it, Joel. What do we do? Joel, enjoy it. And they get to like basically like have almost their own like sort of like quasi first date again in memory. So it's interesting. It's very beautiful. You know, he gets to re-experience that first date with her. You know, we hear about him mentioning the girlfriend Chloe that he had at that time as well, that he mentioned in the beginning of the film. We get more sequences of things sort of like falling apart, you know, being destroyed, disappearing. as Joel and Clem, sort of narrate off tip of the shots we see before she finally says goodbye. They say goodbye to each other, and she says, "Meet me in Montauk." And again, have you not watched this movie in so long? I connected immediately to the beginning of the film and realized, holy shit, now I get it. Now everything makes sense. Now the opening makes sense. Now I know why it started the way it did with Joel waking up. Now I know why he wanted to go to Montauk, taking the day off, right? Why he even felt, whatever. So taking us back to the opening, right? Like I said, my outline here of Joel meeting Clem for the first time. Joel met Clem for the first time for the second time in the opening sequence. That's the coolest part about one of the coolest spins of the film is that he's meeting her for the second time. They're falling in love again. Right? Which, is beautiful. It's very beautiful. It's very touching. And basically Joel wakes up just like in the opening scene, do the procedure, and we get the ending where it turns out Stan didn't know when Mary's ready to move away. Stan didn't know about the relationship with the doctor and her. She takes off with all the records of all the people that have had their memories wiped and shit and whatnot. Joel gets on his train to Montauk. And basically, we get the "let me get my toothbrush" scene again with Patrick Prick, the douchebag. And that's when the letter shows up with the cassette tape. And now Joel and Clem are in the car finding out they were together. Joel hears Clem on the cassette tape, like shredding his ass. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just like straight taking him to the wheelhouse, right? In terms of like him being boring, insufferable, with his apologetic bullshit. Joel feels bad, but he lets her out. And dumbass Patrick shows up again and whatnot and everything, which again, she should have got his ass beat. But Clem shows up at his apartment complex, meets his neighbor, right, that knows her, and walks in and sort of pursues Joel almost, who is listening to himself talking about her, which she says, it's only fair. But he says some cutting shit in there. And so she dips and he fights. God damn it. Good for him. He fights for her because that's all she needed the whole time. I think the whole movie was she just needed a dude to fight for her. Right. And Joel fought. He fought and fought his insecurities and shit and whatnot. And he fought her down the corridor and they reconnect on the fact that they accept the fact that they're going to be imperfect. She's not going to be perfect. It's not going to work. Right. Perfectly. But it'll be what it'll be. They've been together before. They obviously like each other again, right? Like they get it that they fell together. They fell in love together with each other twice. They're cognizant of that, and that's how it ends. It ends with them getting back together, and they're together, right? So, what do you think now, Cyberneticshark, sir, of the whole opening sequence, looking back in retrospect?
Nothing's changed.
The whole opening sequence and whatnot, everything. Like, again, you remember the first time you watched the film and the first time you grasped the whole parallel, like what was really being flushed out in front of you?
Yeah, it's the same as it was today.
Okay.
It hasn't changed for me at all. I got it from the get-go the first time I watched the movie. And I knew the movie began the way it began because I knew that was coming up. I knew that from the get-go because I had read about the movie and I've seen plenty of trailers. So it hasn't altered or changed for me. It's the same movie as it was the first time I watched it. The latter part of the film, like you said, it's the meat of the film.
Yeah,
we had so much about it, that you get a lot of information at the end of this film. And I think one of the best parts is the scene where he's a little kid and he is talking to Clem, trying to get her to, help him, like, remember this. And, like, when they go off map and they go into other memories, it's like, look, you remembered properly. It's my panties are still here, which was absolutely hilarious. And I froze. I'm Iceman.
It's a good frozen picture of you.
Iceman, Iceman. I am Iceman, Iceman. Anyways.
Oh my God.
I don't know why it does that. Jesus Christ. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, this end part of the film, when he tries to go off map and tries to, remember instead of it getting him, I think is a really fun, clever part and really enjoyable because we hit so much great things going on in these sequences. Between that sequence, we get the pillow fight sequence at this part where they're trying to like suffocate each other, which I have no idea who in their right mind would do that, but yeah, hey, it works. You get all these great scenes. You get that scene in the Barnes and Noble or bookstore wherever she works, and them talking and her kind of acting like she doesn't know him, but then she does remember him, after the conversation. And I like how throughout the ending part of the film, we see things start to like disappear and deconstruct and all that kind of stuff, which was really well done. And I think for 2004, the digital effects, in this movie were done really well. And I think that, you get all this information, you get the interesting backstory of that, Kristen Dunst had her memories wiped, Mary's memories wiped because she was obsessed with, the Tom's character who, did end up having an affair with her before having her memory wiped. You get all that.
Uh-oh. Andres, Iceman dipped.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, should we wait? I guess I can say briefly, and then when he comes back,
Go ahead.
Shop after him. But yeah. I mean, this final act is a doozy. I mean, first off, yeah.
I'm sorry I dropped so much on you in one shot. I apologize.
No. Yeah. First time I was kind of blown away. Actually, I from okay, so it makes sense. Like when he gets to the car, I was like, oh, so. It was actually Clementine did it, which was so clever because we saw that earlier. And going back to it, I was like, oh,
that's what I was trying to get to Cyber. Is that like, how did you feel about those concepts when you first were introduced to them? You know what I mean, like of the film, right?
Yeah.
That you're talking about. Because I'm like even watching it like earlier, like tonight, and whatnot. You know how I've been trying to third person this a little bit and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, that like as if I've never watched it before until today. I can't help but think about how like what it was like to watch this the first time and grasp not till the end that the opening of the film is the end.
Yeah. I mean, movies like kind of done that. I can understand where Cyber's coming from. Like Metal did this, well, differently. Where we go back to like where Lenny killed, where Lenny finds out about his condition and all that. But here it's differently because here it was like made a lot more sense because Memento's opening like confirmed that we were going to do backwards, like we were going to do nonlinear. With this movie, it's like I didn't know my first time watching it, like we're going to do a nonlinear thing. And so, like, I was like, okay, what's going on? And like the fact that they pay off so well with the opening was incredible. So I really dug that. Yeah, so it just offered so much, like just gave me the satisfaction for the film being amazing. But also, like cool personal reasons, like when I rewatch it, I totally forgot that the memory Clementine told Joel meet me on Mock Talk. So like that was cool to see, and then that made a lot of sense. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I really enjoyed that. Um, and she does work at Barnes and Noble, like we do, like she did, like I think Joel said it, um, when he was going to give her that necklace before real for that like revelation that she didn't recognize him. Um, it's funny to hear Barnes and Noble like it's now a thing back in 2004. um, love Barnes and Noble, support that, Jay. Um, yeah, the twist with Kristen Dunst, Mary, Mary, and the doctor was kind of like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
That's
So,
what I'm saying. There's really no comedy in the film. It's very serious.
yeah, well, you don't like the Truman Show was very like a comedy. This is like it's like Lost in Translation. If I make it like easier to understand, like it's
Oh, that's what we're reviewing. You wouldn't respond to me and tell me what the hell. You know how bad my memory is, and whatnot, and everything.
okay. I'm sorry.
I couldn't remember what the hell we were reviewing tomorrow night and whatnot. I hit you up on your text message. I hit you up on your fucking Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been busy.
No, you went to the city. I understand. Cyber's
Yeah.
having his Wi-Fi is messed up. He said, I don't think he's coming back on.
Yeah, hopefully it comes back on.
We'll see.
Yeah.
No, take your time. Go ahead and do it. No, because please continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I saw your phone call. I was very busy yesterday, just getting ready for today.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's no big deal.
Yeah. So yeah. It's lesson translation. We're doing that this Sunday live stream, folks. Check
I've got
it out.
plenty of time. I've got plenty of time to watch the film between now and Sunday. So
Yeah, I think it's in Netflix. I think it's still there. But I'll check.
that'd be nice.
Yeah. So like getting back to the Mary twist. That was really cool. And yes, I agree with you, Jeff. I like how you brought up unethical. Like I was shocked that the doctor did it and like put her in that position.
Yeah, allowed her to come back to work and all that shit and whatnot.
Yeah, like that was like wow. Like it was so
Yeah, that's very unethical.
yeah, so like very insecure and whatnot.
Because she's young. Like, I mean, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying, in that movie, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you like Kirsten Dunst may not have been that young in the film as an actress, but her character is very young.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she's at this time she was like 20. But yeah, I agree with you. Like she was young. But yeah, I thought it was like very just ridiculous, and the way the wife did it, like when it got really weird, I was like, oh, okay. She said you had him already, like you did, well, the thing, my first line from her was like, um, um, what is this doctor's name? Is his first name? That Howard. It's like Howard, stop being a monster. Tell her the truth, And I was like, oh my god, it was crazy. Saber, welcome back. So I was shocked about the twist, and I didn't notice this. The beginning, like I know I'm jumping around. Sorry, folks. Yeah, just so bad today.
You're fine, brother. Take your time. We got plenty of time. And we'll go. When you finish, we'll go to Cyber, and he'll finish up and whatnot. We'll do our ratings, and we'll get the plug out and get out of here.
Yeah. What was I say? The beginning part when Joel, before he takes the procedure, his neighbor was talking to him, and he knows the envelope where it notifies him to not to mention the Clementine relationship as well. And I didn't notice that until this review. So it was really cool now looking back on the beginning. It was like, oh, that was like really cool. And then of course I didn't notice that she took all the recordings to like give it to the patients, which this might why she did it, like that was my thing, like why you did it. You literally destroy, like kind of messed up now their memories, but at the same time I kind of appreciate that. Like I'm very torn what Mary did in the film, Kristen Dunst's character, like the fact that she gave this like confidential information to these patients, but at the same time, it's like, I didn't.
Look at how unethical the whole business was run and whatnot and everything. So, like, you know what I'm saying? They got what they deserved.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But again, I mean, she was a victim too, so I was kind of happy she did it. So but yeah, so I always enjoyed the ending when before Joel's loses his last memories of Clementine. That visual of like being in the car, seeing the various memories we haven't seen yet. That was really cool. That was where the music really hits me because the score there was really great when Clementine says goodbye to him and says that meet me at Montauk. Yeah. The score gets into it so well. But yeah, I totally enjoy it. Yeah, so yeah, that's all I have to say. I think the ending is great. I love this movie. It's my top 4 favorite all timers in terms of my favorite movies after Lost in Translation, Her, Birdman. That great film by Mike Keaton is amazing. And yeah, I love it.
Andres, you change your fucking top movie list every goddamn week.
No, I do not. I do not change it.
Cyber, how many times did he change his top fucking 5 movie lists or whatever, whatnot, and everything in the course of a year? Like 27 times now?
I mean, honestly, I feel every time we do a review, he changes it. So I mean, it's infinite amount of times he's changed it, and that happens. We go through phases where we see movies we haven't seen in a long time, and we change it. It's all good. I don't care.
Well, I was going to start calling him Time Lord at the beginning of next year, but then he dropped that 5 on Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I'm sorry, Andre.
No. I gave it a 6. I give it a 6 out of 10. What are you talking about? I didn't give it a 5 out of 10. I give it a 6 out of 10.
And you started off the review with, "This is the worst MCU film ever."
Look, I was joking. I was dead serious about the worst movie of all time. Come on, like, let's give me that. Like, I was having fun with this.
I know you were. Totally fine. All right, Cyberneticshark, sir. Let me give you back the floor, so you can finish up your comments and thoughts on the end of the film.
Certainly. So yeah, I mean, the end of the film is really, I feel, my favorite part of the film altogether because it really does have a lot of great elements. And like I was saying before, I became Iceman there for a moment. All those sequences where Joel's trying to keep from losing those memories are really entertaining and fun. That's where the dramedy comes into this film, especially that scene where he's supposed to be playing himself as like 5 years old and he sees her panties. That was totally comedy there. And, we had that great moment in there, which is absolutely hilarious, and I think that's funny as hell that she does that. And we have, several great moments where there are just these interesting, fun sequences that really define the relationship, really define, the ultimate outcome that Joel really needs. And I think it was so well written and it really worked really well with those sequences. And both Kate and Jim did a great job of bringing those to life in those final sequences. But I mean, the whole situation going on in the real world with, Stan, with Patrick, with Howard's wife, and all that kind of stuff, and Mary, and so forth. And we have all that going on too, as well, which was really interesting. Like, holy crap, we find out that Mary had her memory wiped, that she had a thing for Howard, which you kind of felt that even when you first are introduced to Mary earlier in the film. Like, she definitely has something going on. Like, you feel it, that she's thinking a certain way about Howard. And so it was kind of fun seeing the actual like final outcome of what all that really was about. And the kind of conversation that Mary and Stan have, I didn't know that happened. I wasn't there when your memory was wiped and all that stuff. It was really fun too. And this was probably one of the first films I ever saw Mark Ruffalo in. So this is my whole like idea of his acting was all from this film. And I always remembered I really enjoyed him in the film. and that he did a really good job. This being the first time I'd seen him, and I was like, oh, this guy's interesting. It'll be interesting to see him do other things. And then of course he goes on and he becomes Bruce Banner, the Hulk. I mean, he does that In the Cut movie with Meg Ryan, which I really enjoyed. Simple fact, he just played a really awesome character in that movie. And that movie definitely has a really great story and an interesting story arc. Even though it was trying to be Meg Ryan's comeback film, I think it was funny that out of all the people they could have picked to play that role, they picked her, and I was like, okay. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh was a lot better in that film than she was. But then he goes on to do Spotlight in 2015, which he was really freaking amazing in. And I saw a lot of potential in Mark Ruffalo in this film, and even though his part's not super huge in this, I still think he did a really phenomenal job. You basically get all those really interesting little factoids throughout this whole film. Coming to the official end, after having his memory wiped, we get that great ending sequence where they break into that house, and that was the first day he met Clem, and they have that conversation. She takes his chicken from him. They break into the house and they pretend they own the house and stuff like that. And she basically eventually tells him to meet her in Montauk. And when she says that, I was thinking the first time I watched this, I was like, oh, watch, he's gonna end up going to Montauk the next day. That's his cue. That's his cue that's gonna make him think that. And even watching it today, I was like, oh, Montauk, we know where you're going here, Montauk. And I'm like, oh, I mean, who wouldn't want Kate Winslet whispering things into their ears?
I've been to Montauk before.
I don't know what she could say anything. She'd be like toothpick or adrenal gland. I don't know. You still would just love it. Her, speaking into your ear like that.
Vaginal yeast made beer.
There you go. And so ended up as having the film end where the film began, was a great way of rounding out the film and seeing, why this situation ended up happening, how they felt, how they were so naturally inclined to each other and naturally attracted to each other. They already had that attraction years before. And so you have that really great conclusion where everyone gets their stuff back, showing that they got their memory wiped, and them driving the car, and she puts in that tape and listening to it, and she's like explaining how she wiped Joel from her memory, and he's just like, is this a joke? Are you screwing me here? And just how he so becomes that introvert again right after the get-go, nothing has changed. And she gets out and she's in tears, and then she goes and Patrick shows up, Mr. Creepman 3000, and she's like, "God!" and screams at him. I thought was perfect, exactly how you get rid of a creepoid. And so then when they finally get, she goes over to his house, and he's listening to his tape, and how she reverts back right to how she was too, and just leaves after starting to hear his tape. And they end up going in the hallway and they have that little conversation. I'm just trying to, I'm just a screwed up woman trying to learn my way. And he's like, oh, okay. And they end up together again. I thought was a great way to end the film. And it makes you happy when a film has sort of a happy ending, even though that this was a very dramatic film. That really was a happy ending because they ended up back together again after all the, controversy or all the pain that they went through to become a couple again. And you get that great kind of send off to them getting back together again and deciding to go in the future and do what they need to. So really, really amazing end to this film. Absolutely love from the middle to the end of this film. I think it's my favorite part of the film. Lots of great scenes, lots of great funniness, lots of great talk and dialogue. So a really great way to end this film.
Excellent. Well, give me 1 second. I have the trailer, and I'll play it before we do the ratings to do something different for once. We'll actually play the trailer here at the end. If I can find this bitch, I need to empty out my my downloads on my MacBook Pro. But a lot of crap in here. Oh no, it's not Disney. Bear with me, folks. I've got the trailer. I promise.
Yeah, before when you get it up,
Go ahead. Grace.
yeah, it was there was a little cool Easter eggs and stuff that I didn't notice until I read up with the film. The mention of Joel's girlfriend prior to Clementine, her name was Naomi, and there were some deleted scenes that they cut out that kind of made Joel very douchey, like a douchebag, basically. That he sort of kind of cheated on Naomi when he meets Clementine. You can see the deleted scenes in YouTube. That's something I just want to bring up to the folks if you didn't know those it's really there in the film. If you pay attention to that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Time Cop.
Yeah, no problem. I wish I was Time Lord, but I guess my was.
You are Time Lord, sir. You are Time Lord.
Yeah. Oh, another band. Third internal flashlight with electric light orchestra, Mr. Blue Sky. We used that in the trailer.
Hi.
Sorry?
I just said hi. What Howard gives to the world to let people begin again. It's beautiful.
Completely.
Yeah.
She's there with
them
this
waking up
guy.
in the bed and the beach.
And she
That's
doesn't
also
even,
good
she doesn't even know who I am.
What is it?
Miss Kraczynski was not happy, and she wanted to move on.
My name is Joel Parrish, and I'm here to erase Clementine Kraczynski.
There's an emotional core to each of our memories, and when you eradicate that core, it starts its degradation process. By the time you wake up in the morning, all the memories from targeted would have withered and disappeared, as in a dream upon waking.
This is the last time I saw you.
Too many guys think I'm a concept, or I complete them, or I'm gonna make them alive. I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind.
We're going off.
Can you hear me? I don't want this anymore. I want to call it off.
That shit was deep. All right, y'all. Ratings. Now that we got chillered out, baby. Cyberneticshark, so you want to start?
What am I starting with?
Ratings, sir. Now that we've been chillered out.
All right. I give this a solid 10. I find it entertaining. I find it interesting, fun. I like the cast. I thought it had a fantastic cast for 2004. From Tom Wilkinson to Mark Ruffalo to Elijah Wood to Kirsten Dunst to Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, all of them great. Dave Cross. I think for me the weakest character is Kirsten Dunst's character. I think, and other than that, I still think everyone did a really great job in the film. And overall, I think that it just had a lot of great fun to it. It was, I think, one of my favorite Michael Gondry films. And I just really enjoyed everything about it. So I give it a 10.
I agree with you 100%. Kirsten Dunst is her performance is the weakest out of the core of the film and whatnot. And it's a very compact cast. So it becomes very evident, against the other actors in the film that she's just not up to their, especially Tom Wilkinson, you know what I'm saying? Not quite at that par, right? But Andrea, sir, your rating?
Same, 10 out of 10. It's one of the best movies of all time. I really love it. It's one of Jim Carrey's best performances. I really adore it. I mean, it's I really connect to this movie when I was growing up, and it really got me into like the indie films. That's something we discuss. Like some of these movies do get you into these kind of like you know indie kind of films, or the auteur kind of films, we want to call it. These were like the early ones for me when I was growing up, getting into movies. Be a movie buff. I really enjoy it. I agree with Cyber. It's one of the best Gondry films. I don't think he has looked at this movie yet. Like maybe closest to it was maybe that Jack Black film, Be Kind to Rewind, or something like that. Very interesting film. Very charming. It's a good fun movie. But yeah, but I love it. I mean, Charlie Kaufman, great writer. This is a great screenplay by him. Love that he won the Oscar for this. I highly recommend everyone to watch it. It's one of the best science fiction romantic drama film. I mean, it packs you everything. I mean, the fact that it packs so many like the memories and like doing the twists, turns with the cast is really great. I disagree. I think Mary is kind of strong. I feel like Dunst was used well here. I mean, her purpose here was just to show how unethical the procedure is sometimes, and so I think it went well. So I disagree with that, but it's my opinion, and I get why. I mean, we don't spend time with Mary.
I don't think either Cyber nor I were putting down her performance. I think we're just saying that out of the whole group, she was the weakest.
Yeah. I know. I don't disagree. I mean, if we spend more time with her, I think maybe the character could have been more fleshed out. But
even as a scumbag, douchebag, slimeball, fucking Elijah, he handled his business being a slimeball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, very well. So yeah, I love this movie. It's one of my favorites growing up. It still is. I was very happy to rewatch it. So go ahead and watch it, folks.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if I would have been Ruffalo at that point, I would have banged Kirsten Dunst on set without question, and it would have been a 10 out of 10 in the bedroom when I busted that shit off. But I've also busted off a 10 out of 10 of the film. I'm not trying to like drop lines or whatever, whatnot. I'm just flowing, folks. But no, I'm dropping a 10 too, just because I want to rep the team here. And it's a fucking 10 out of 10 movie. It's 12 out of 10. This is a good ass movie, man. Like for real. I mean, this is one where like you wish your kids would watch this, right? Like, but you don't know. You kind of like, it's like Star Trek when he comes on, Cyber, like he talks about his kids and shit and whatnot, or Matt. How they, you just can't get their attention sometimes when they're younger and whatnot, especially nowadays. You were just talking about how kids are the other day. Movies like this, I wish I could get Isabella to watch this, but probably just the beginning of the film would probably turn her off, and she would not watch it all the way through. Knowing her, it would be too slow for her, and she would just. I'm talking to you, sir.
Talking to me?
Yeah, I'm saying
What'd you say?
I'm saying kids these days, you can't get them to watch films like this anymore. They're too slow.
No, because kids are brainwashed these days. They don't know shit. Hence, they
if the movie doesn't like literally fucking like sprung them from jump, like you know what I'm saying, like they're out.
Yeah, they're programmed to like only certain things. So hence anything that is prior 2010, prior 2015, prior 2020, I feel anything prior to like the 2010s, I feel like they are programmed to not understand. And so, anything back in the early 2000s, anything back in the 1930s, these kids are going to look at this and be like, oh my God, this is so boring. I don't understand it, because they are programmed to like, oh, be a good boy. Sit here and be good.
That's why I waited with Isabella until which I got to give her props, because honestly, Isabella tried to turn me on to J-Rock and J-Metal way before I ever got into Bandmade. She tried to get me to pay attention to that shit, and I wouldn't. because I'm like, oh, whatever. It had to do with anime. I didn't know about anime at that point. But either way, my point simply is just that I waited until, same thing with my son, until they got to a point where they started listening to older music on their own, right? Before I actually started trying to drop albums on them and referring bands to them and things like that and whatnot. Because kids these days, Andre, is a lot. They don't care. If you tell them to go check out a band or a movie and whatnot, they're not going to.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's just different now than it was before.
No, no, you're right. And that's pretty much it, folks. That's our review. I mean, I really liked watching that trailer there at the end. I really did. It sort of brought me back to the film again and whatnot and everything. I really enjoyed watching the film. I did. This was one of those times where I really enjoyed the fuck out of watching the film that we reviewed. Like I really enjoyed outlining it, and whatnot, and everything, and watching it, and whatnot, and everything. It really was fun to watch. But great job, guys. Cyber, great job for the night. Moderating the Ant-Man and the Wasp. You were great. That was a stellar performance, sir. We appreciate all of you out there, folks. We're almost at 40,000 subs. So, right, we earned our stats over here at the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. All we ask is that you consider subscribing. We'd appreciate it. At the end of the day, let's do plugs and get the fuck out of here. Unless you guys have any final thoughts on the movie.
Nope.
I love how Jim Carrey, Baby Joel, Cyber, when Clem does the crotch shot, he's like, yuck. There you go, sir. Big thumbs up to you, too. All right. Cyberneticshark YouTube channel. Sir, what do we got going on these days?
All right. So if you haven't checked out my newest review, people, it's Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving movie that came out back in November. Just got the movie review up today. Great movie. If you haven't gotten seen yet, definitely go check it out in theaters. It should still be running in theaters. Eli Roth directed it. Really fantastic film. Lots of great stuff to go. If you haven't seen my Expendable franchise breaking, definitely check that one out too. That was fun to do. And yeah, so you'll be seeing more stuff come up, some more reviews eventually. Definitely a lot of trailer reactions coming up for you guys. Of course, just keep on my shorts, doing a lot of Christmas themed shorts of ones I haven't done yet. I will hopefully not do any repeats for those. Trying not to, but yeah, definitely keep an eye out on my little mini reviews there for you guys, and definitely be seeing more MCU news and stuff like that too in my shorts, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely keep on trekking at 713. Let's try to make it to that 1,000 mark, people. Let's get to that 1,000 mark.
I'd like to see some more MCU content from you. There's a lot going on in the MCU. I think we're gonna have a good year this year with the MCU. And that trailer for Planet of the Apes, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, is dope.
Yes, it is. I'm excited for that one.
And so is that freaking that other Godzilla film, not the one out in theaters right now, but the one that just the trailer came out.
Yes, Godzilla and Kong, New Empire.
That one is freaking good too. I saw that earlier today. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I love the first one 2 years ago. It's good.
I didn't see the first one.
Oh, it's good. It's my favorite Monsterverse film after Kong Skull Island. So, hello everyone. Sorry for everything today, guys, for my allergies. But thank you for joining us, Cyber and I and Jeff, for the Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind review live stream. So here it is. I'm up to 856 subscribers. I just recently post my top 10 favorite Doctor Who villains. Check that out. Tomorrow I will probably do a Lois Lane tribute to Terry Hatcher's version because her birthday was today. So check that out soon tomorrow. This Sunday, the 10th of December, me and Jeff are back again to do another live stream. It's Lost in Translation, starring Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson.
Holy shit! 309 views. Wow.
Yeah, maybe the Addams Family is popular. Maybe people like this first one more, but we'll see. Anyway, I like the second film more, so I'm very surprised the first one.
Folks, I can't wait to live with Andres on Sunday. It'll be fun.
Yeah, so for the 20th anniversary for Lost in Translation, so that'll be cool. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So thank you everyone for supporting me. It means a lot to me. So let's keep up the subscribers with me and Cyber as well. Support us. Thank you so much, MCU Bleeding Edge community.
There you go, folks. Our review of Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind is over. We all dropped 10s on that bitch. It was a great review, great movie. We really appreciate all the support out there and whatnot, everything. We're out of here. Good night to everybody out there and whatnot. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. We'll see you on Wednesday for Endgame Part 1. It's just going to be dope as hell. I'm going to start it off, and Cyber's going to take it down. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. All right, folks. Peace. Laters.
Just let a man breathe and just hush so my mind could just see, so my mind don't erupt. At times I feel I can't get enough, but I sip a double cup and I spin a couple bucks. Sending out some love to my blood, to my girl, to my buds, to the homie up above.